sometimes not having enough money costs more money. As the Fates said, life ain't easy, life ain't fair. Anyone get that reference? Just me? Anyway, as you know, there is a huge wealth spectrum, so to speak, ranging from people who barely or cannot afford a place to live to people with so much money that they fly to space in a phallic-shaped rocket because why not? This isn't a video about why the wealth spectrum exists or even if it should exist, as that can get quite political, and this is not a political channel by any means. Instead, the Dana Yee Show is about all things money and finance. And in this video, I want to point out things that are more expensive if you don't have money and what could be done in each situation. One thing I will say, I've never been poor or had to worry about money growing up. This isn't a brag, this has nothing to do with me. This is 100% because of my parents' hard work and dedication, and I've recently started work and providing for myself financially. But I bring this up because I don't want to come across as brash or insensitive. I understand that some people may think I have no right to talk about this because I've never personally been through it. However, my goal is always to educate and entertain, so if you have a problem with anything I say, make sure to drop a comment down below and we can start a healthy debate. As always, this is not financial advice, but if you find yourself relating to any of the points in this video, hopefully I say something informative and perhaps makes you look further into financial topics, which is awesome. Financial education is always awesome. Despite not everyone being able to fly to space in an oddly shaped rocket, one thing we all can do, regardless of wealth status, is bop that like button. Unlike the rocket, it costs no money, only takes a second, and it hugely helps out my channel. And while you do that, here's a picture of an adorable baby panda. I got the idea for this video after reading a CNBC article titled "Full-Time Minimum Wage Workers Cannot Afford Rent Anywhere in the United States." The gist is that they define affordable as no more than 30% of your income on rent, in which case minimum wage workers cannot afford a 2-bedroom apartment in any state in the country. That being said, sometimes not being able to afford things like rent means that other things in life cost more money, and here are a few. Firstly, loans. There are tons of different types of loans. So the first one I'm going to touch on is credit cards. If you are putting something on a credit card because you cannot afford to pay with it in cash, you're more likely to carry a balance from month to month or make the minimum payment, which in the long term leads to actually paying way more for the item. So according to the internet, the average interest rate on a credit card is 16.16%, which is crazy to think about. And one thing to note, I think some people don't understand this about credit cards, but if you pay off your balance in full every month, so if you charge $100 to your credit card, but you pay it off at the end of the month, you don't actually pay any interest. The interest is paid when you carry a balance. What accent was that? When you carry a balance into the next month. If you're able to pay off your credit balance in full, that's great because it builds your credit and you can take advantage of credit card payment reward systems, but not everyone is able to do this. Let's give an example to see how truly crazy this interest buildup can be over time. Let's say you put a $2,000 charge on a credit card at the average of 16.16% interest, which is a funny number, but whatever. And due to various life factors, completely understandable, you're only able to pay the monthly minimum of $35. Most cards have some sort of minimum of like $25 or $35, so I'm just going with $35 here. So now pause for a second and answer me this. How long do you think it would take to pay off the $2,000 balance, making the minimum payment of $35 a month? A few years? 5 to 6 years? Well, actually, due to the interest, it would take you just over 9 years to pay off this balance. And this is assuming you haven't bought anything else. Is bought in a word? You haven't bought anything in those 9 years. And at the end of the 9 years, you will have paid $1,840 in interest. Think about that. A $2,000 purchase, firstly, not only takes you 9 years to pay off, but in the end actually costs you $3,840. And if we increase the monthly payment from $35 to $70, that cuts the time to pay off to just over 3 years by doubling your payment. So that really goes to show any amount helps, and adding $35 a month in extra payment cuts the time in basically a third. Obviously, if at all possible, try to pay off the balance in full so you're not paying any interest. So if you spend $100, it's going to cost you $100, which is ideal, but this isn't feasible for everyone, so there are a few things that can be done. According to the internet, you can cut up your credit cards and then you won't be charged. That is 100% a joke. Again, need to clarify, that is a joke. And you make this clear because some people on the internet believe this. I swear I saw this somewhere on the internet, and if I can find it, I'll put it here, but that's just false beyond belief. What's not false is that a lot of people recommend for small purchases, if you can't afford to buy it in cash, don't put it on a card. I say small here. Small is subjective. Small could be $10, could be $100, could be $1,000, depending on who you are. But if you can't afford to buy something for, let's say, $50 outright, it's probably best not to put it on a card unless there are extenuating circumstances, as you may end up paying almost double for the item after interest. This isn't to say all loans are bad. Like, I don't think you should only buy a house if you have all the cash to buy a house. That's severely unrealistic in a lot of cases, especially with housing prices nowadays. But a lot of people recommend for smaller purchases to only buy them if you have the cash available. It's not the absolute worst thing in the world to carry a balance. Ideally, you don't want to. But if you have a balance, the hardest part is tackling it and actually whittling it down and just not making it grow out of control. And one mental strategy that might work is, instead of thinking of it as, wow, look at all this debt I have to pay off, think of it as everything you're paying into it, you're essentially earning 16.16% on that because you won't be paying that in interest. Another thing that costs people more money who don't have enough money is not having enough money in a bank account, aka overdraft fees. So you have to pay because you don't have enough money. It's kind of backwards, but that's just how the financial system works. So it is kind of weird, right? Because you don't have enough money and you accidentally overdraft, you need to pay an overdraft fee. And these fees are generally, I think, $35. So if you overdraft by $10, you have a $35 fine, which is kind of crazy. I cannot give a quick solution to the not having enough money part. That's like another topic for another video. But there are cases where people who overdraft have no idea they're overdrafting. In that case, knowing what your balance is at all times, or at least when you're about to spend money, is really crucial. Nowadays, most banks have mobile applications or websites that you can use to quickly view your account, which could save you some careless overdraft fees. Again, this only solves the case of not knowing that you're about to overdraft. Unfortunately, there's no quick, easy way to fix the not having enough money in your account part. Another thing that costs more money for people who don't have enough money is health. As a non-medical professional, the way I see this is that a lot of cheap food in the United States, aka fast food or similar, are cheaper than things like organic foods or more healthy foods. And by buying and consuming more cheap and unhealthy foods, it can lead to more bad health, which can lead to more medical expenses. And when people don't have enough money, they tend not to be insured via healthcare, which can get very scary. I've seen articles of people going into crazy amounts of medical debt. And similarly, if you're not really covered by healthcare, it's going to be more expensive to just go for regular checkups and physicals and things to the doctor. So if you don't have good healthcare coverage, you're less likely to go to a doctor and only go when things get serious, and that might be too late. So it's also really scary. I feel like I shouldn't give any advice on this one because I know next to nothing about medical practices. That had nothing to do with finance. That was just like a health thing. So there are definitely other channels out there with more health information if you're looking for that. Back to the finance stuff. Another thing that costs people more money if you don't have enough money is that because you don't have enough money to, let's say, invest, you miss out on a lot of potential gains and upsides in investments like the stock market, the real estate market, the crypto market, or whatever. I think one thing to keep in mind is that even though not everyone can put in tons and tons of money into the stock market every month, anything is better than nothing. Especially nowadays, a lot of brokerages have no commission for buying and selling stocks, and some brokerages have fractional shares. So if you can't afford one share of Amazon, as a lot of people cannot, you could buy like 1/100th of one share of Amazon. So even if you start with $5, $10 here and there, you can start slowly building. And I think a lot of it is just the mentality of continuing to invest. So you can increase that over time or just make it continual and slow over time, which is better than nothing, I guess. So I didn't mention everything as that would take too long and nobody wants to watch me rant for like 3.5 hours or whatever. Life isn't fair and it's especially difficult for people who don't have enough money. If you're part of that category, hopefully I pointed out some things that may be helpful to look into. And if you do have enough money, it's always humbling to remember that not everyone is as lucky as you are. And if you're looking for financial education and entertainment, the subscribe button is down there. On that note, I'll see you guys soon.